I'm really excited for this conversation that we're about to have. I know my team has been working really hard on this, so we're super excited to present what we have. I forgot to say, I'm a senior. I currently go to Hunter College High School in Manhattan. I'll be attending MIT next year. And yeah, I think I first got introduced to this competition by Cheryl, who's also joining us today. So thank you so much. She and Alex, who is the head of the UNA Southwest Connecticut chapter, have really been helping us along this process. So yeah, we're really grateful to them. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think I'll pass it on to Angel to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Angel. I'm currently a sophomore in high school. Like Emily said, I'm very happy to be here. It's very exciting. Lots of thanks to Cheryl and Alex for introducing this opportunity to us. Sydney, would you like to go?
Hi, I'm Sydney. I'm also a sophomore in Georgia at Milton High School, and I'm also very thankful to be here. Thank you to Cheryl and Emily for always leading us. Kevin.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin. I'm from Livingston, New Jersey, and I'm a junior in high school. And Jolene, would you like to go next?
Hi, my name is Jolene, and I am a freshman in Houston, Texas. As you can see, I'm in school right now. But yeah, I'm really thankful for this opportunity, and yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you all go ahead with your presentation, and then our Harvard team can introduce themselves when they present.
I'm good to share my screen now. Just let me know if you can see it. Everything good? Yeah. Okay, it's starting. Okay.
Yep, looks great.
Okay, so we'll just get started then. Well, thank you so much to everyone for being here. So today we'll be introducing the hottest trend of 2021, nutritious eating. And we have here a proposal to integrate healthy and sustainable nutrition into Filipino culture. But first, to get us started, we're gonna have a little serenade to get us excited about nutrition. So just let me know if you can hear this.
Mr. Potato, where have you been? With eyes that look like dimples, tell me what you've seen. Your wormy paths down undergrounds and through the lands, but you, my friend, are luckily right here in my hands. Round Mr. Potato, where have you been? I'm thankful you can join my dinner plate of green. 'Cause candy's yummy, but I know that every day my garden fills my tummy and completes my day. Round Mr. Potato.
There we go. So in our presentation today, we will be discussing Zero Hunger, the second of 17 United Nations Development Goals, which altogether lay out the goals necessary to achieve world peace and prosperity. Zero Hunger, as insinuated by its name, aims to end world hunger and increase food security. In South Asia, the region of this competition, Zero Hunger has 5 main targets: access and distribution, rice cultivation, environmental degradation, COVID-19, and lastly, nutrition, the target we're focusing on today.
Malnutrition is a global plight that takes different forms depending on the country. Our country of interest is the Philippines, which has many characteristics that makes its nutrition problems unique. Due to its location being near the equator, the Philippines has an all-year-round growing season. It also has a surplus of unused land with quality soil suitable for growing crops. Yet half of the population still suffers from malnutrition-related conditions. This is due to the issue that the majority of Filipinos consume an unbalanced diet. Rice is the main source of food for the population, especially for impoverished families. Because of its cheap price, significant cultural value, and relationship with Filipino politics. However, the barrier to a nutritious diet is not entirely based on wealth. In rural areas, there is an abundance of produce growing in the environment, which means a diet with a variety of nutrients can easily be obtained. For example, the surplus of coconuts provides for an excellent source of fiber, vitamin C, and minerals, which rice does not supply. Therefore, it is necessary to take action towards improving the general knowledge about the benefits of consuming a diverse range of fresh fruits and vegetables.
First, it's important to consider how the problem of nutrition manifests in the Philippines versus the rest of South Asia. In the Philippines, wasting, which is low weight for height, is comparatively less severe issue, partially due to the rise in quality of life in the Philippines that prevents more children from starving and being severely underweight. 5.6% of Filipino children are affected by wasting. This is lower than the average of 9.1% in the region.
So let us take a closer look at what nutrition problems are affecting different age groups in the Philippines and where progress is the most needed. So stunting, as you can see by this graph, is by far the greatest issue that children under the age of 5 face, with the proportion of stunted children staying relatively static since the year 2000, which means that progress is slow. For children between the ages of 5 through 19, being overweight and obesity are severe and worsening problems. Since 2000, the proportion of overweight children has nearly doubled for both boys and girls. It's still important to consider that the figures for underweight children between the ages of 5 and 19 are also still extremely high, around 36.7% for boys and 30.2% for girls, but these numbers have dropped significantly since 2000 and progress has been made. Malnutrition in adults has seen similar trends to children ages 5 to 19. The proportion of overweight adults has increased by roughly 50%. Thus, a core part of our solution should address the increasingly overweight and obese population, which lies with eating food that is not nutritious enough.
The most fundamental cause of these nutritional issues is an unbalanced diet, which stems from two factors. First, most crops in the Philippines are not grown locally and have high transportation costs, making the prices of fresh produce higher and less appealing to the majority of the population, resulting in overconsumption of processed instant foods. This is largely connected to an aging and shrinking farming population, as Filipinos are increasingly disinterested in agriculture. Second, adults and children are not properly educated on the importance of nutrition and what healthy consumption looks like. Children mostly learn nutrition from their parents and eat what their parents eat, creating a trickle-down effect. These factors result in a severely imbalanced diet. The top food sources of Filipinos are rice, fats, and pork. These foods are highly caloric and focus extensively on carbohydrates and fatty proteins, providing an inadequate fiber intake of only 30 to 40% of the recommended nutrient intake.
We aim to address these issues by changing nutritional choices on a personal level through integrating nutrition into culture. We drew inspiration from the Iroquois League, an indigenous tribe who harvested the Three Sisters, a combination of corn, beans, and squash. These staples have been proven to be effective in delivering the essential nutrients, as corn supplies carbohydrates, beans provide proteins, and squash delivers vitamins and minerals. Cultural artifacts like the Three Sisters affirm that improving nutrition can be as simple as it is effective by incorporating what is already familiar into better practices. For example, rice could be the equivalent to corn in the Philippines because of how widespread it already is and its similarity in nutritional contents. Improving nutrition should not focus solely on enforcing groundbreaking and unfamiliar policies. Rather, it should be done through gradual and easy to follow steps.
Cultural integration also makes nutrition more enjoyable, especially for younger generations. In several African countries and even in the Philippines, the Make Farming Sexy Again slogan, started by millennials concerned about the aging farming population, has seen great success in getting people excited about agriculture. In an interview, the Agriculture Secretary, Proceso Alcala, referred to this new era of farming as colorful, sexy, and rewarding. Combined with the rapid improvements in farming technologies, the incorporation of nutrition and agriculture into popular culture has the potential to improve the quantity, quality, and enjoyability of nutritious foods in both the producing and consuming ends.
So our proposed culture-based approach consists of a social media campaign that features engaging, informative, and accessible resources that account for the wide range of problems based on nutrition that Filipinos face. So on the left here, we see a poster featuring colorful, like personified fruits and vegetables. The poster not only features a fun challenge to name the foods above, but also has the foods designed in a way that helps kids build positive associations with nutritious foods, which encourages them to consume them over more widely advertised junk foods and snacks. Next, we have a poster here outlining 3 ways Filipinos can make fertilizer at home. This poster is specifically targeted towards new farmers who may not have an agricultural background, and for urban Filipinos who face the problem of self-sufficiency, which became particularly evident when COVID-19 cut off a portion of their food supply. This encourages people to engage more and experiment with agriculture in simple ways. There from the left here, we have an easy, nutritious vegetable salad recipe designed to help working parents prepare nutritious meals for their families and avoid having their children suffer from malnutrition during their early years. As the income levels in the Philippines rises, convenient but highly processed foods are becoming more widely available. And busy parents may resort to relying on these foods if healthy foods seem too time-consuming or bothersome to prepare. And on the right here, we have a poster detailing the benefits of many fruits that are easily found and grown in the Philippines, which informs the general population and encourages them to seek out fresh produce. The increase in demand also makes the farming industry more profitable and especially pushes young people to go into agriculture, which is crucial to sustain a well-nourished population.
To supplement informative posts circulated on social media platforms, we would produce cute songs shared and passed on orally or other cultural mnemonic devices. Like the potato song in the beginning of the presentation, simple songs with memorable lyrics capture the attention of children, creating a fun and effective way of spreading education. Short animations for kids. Creating an attention-grabbing TV show specifically targeted towards the younger generation will help this initiative reach further generations of the Filipino community. Hands-on DIY projects for kids. TV is entertaining, but aiming to minimize screen time is also a priority. We can provide physical fun activities such as drone building kits consisting of popsicle sticks, tape, and other household items. The results of these projects are also highly shareable via social media. In-depth tutorials for farmers. Posting in-depth tutorials regarding the use of new technologies, methods, crops, etc. will help farmers, the majority of whom have not had an extensive education in agriculture.
Social media is our main medium of societal change because of its high penetration rate of nearly 70% in the Philippines. More than 95% of Filipino users are connected through Facebook and YouTube as of January 2021. With an average of over 4 hours a day, the Philippines has the highest social media screen time in the world. Since online social networks are both fundamental in building communities and spreading news, these tools have great potential in altering dietary behaviors. This potential is confirmed by Professor Claire Farrow, the director of Aston University's Applied Health Research Group, who observes that young children and people spend a huge amount of time interacting with peers and influencers via social media. And therefore, interventions through social media can be delivered to help them adopt healthy eating habits from a young age. Moreover, Aisling Piggott, a spokesperson for the British Dietetic Association, finds that the promotion of health messages across social media, focusing on promoting healthy choices, could nudge people into making positive decisions around the food they eat. Given the cultural focus of our campaign, the high penetration rate of social media, its integral role in Filipino society, and its potential to shift nutritional practices of especially the youth, our social media campaign is the optimal way to make nutrition accessible and enjoyable for Filipinos.
So the actual resources and cultural elements we create are not the only important parts of our solution. It's also imperative that we have a clear plan concerning how we will spread them effectively through our networks. So we plan on connecting with non-governmental and governmental organizations, which helps our campaign build credibility while we help the organizations themselves better inform their communities. So listed above here, we have a preliminary list of organizations we can reach out to collaborate on spreading this campaign, and we would adjust what resources we are sharing based on which platform we are sharing them on. So for example, under farming and agricultural organizations, one possible company we reach out to is Harvest Agribusiness Corporation, who we actually consulted prior to this final competition on our solution, and just basically talk with them to get a better idea of what issues are actually happening in the Philippines. And so collaborating with multiple organizations at once also allows us to carry out A/B testing, which is a marketing technique in which you show a different variation of the campaign to separate audience groups and collect empirical data on comparing their effectiveness. So for example, we could test like whether audiences better receive short and long text, posts with videos and images, sound versus silent posts, et cetera, et cetera. And using A/B testing is really effective because it allows for us to continuously and iteratively improve our campaign in both its message and its aesthetics. So if we see that, like, for example, one audience doesn't respond to one post as well, we would adjust it to make it have a better response in the future. It also makes best use of our time, money, and influence because as we can connect through multiple different networks at once, we basically exponentially increase our reach. It also provides a lot of flexibility, so we have the potential to further specify targeting specific audiences. As we saw, the Philippines has a very diverse range of issues, and those actually also differ not only amongst age groups, but also amongst provinces. So we can further specify what resources we are sharing based on which platform we're reaching out on.
It's also important to note that while our culture-focused approach in the use of social media will be integral in the path to improving nutrition in the Philippines, it is not sufficient. A comprehensive solution also requires the collaboration of businesses and the government. Our solution starts with a local focus. By slowly changing the societal attitude about nutrition and farming, and thus increasing awareness of nutrition, we can take steps to improve individual food consumption and production choices. We also propose businesses to get involved as well. With the involvement of businesses who have the power to distribute crucial farming technologies and seeds to farmers, we will be able to improve the productivity and nutritional quality of Filipino agriculture, as well as make farming a more profitable career to increase supply of fresh and healthy produce. Lastly, the government has the power to encourage good nutrition by taking national level actions, such as imposing taxes that limit consumption of highly processed foods or providing subsidies to farmers and agricultural innovation as a way to support national agriculture.
So looking beyond the Philippines, informing the general population about nutrition and providing actionable steps and making people more passionate about healthy diets is a universal solution, which is why we wanted to focus mainly on social media. Not only can a social media started in the Philippines reach past the country's borders, but it's also easy and relatively expensive to start those campaigns in other countries themselves. Our solution is generally more suited towards countries with similar income levels as the Philippines, such as Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, who also face similar problems of a child population that is both stunting and overweight. And middle income countries like these four are generally more susceptible to this double issue of stunting and being overweight, because some kids have greater access to processed junk foods, but there are still kids going hungry from not eating enough. And that's all we have for our presentation. Thank you so much.
Amazing, amazing. I think we should all unmute for a second and just give an official round of applause. So 1, 2, 3. Nice job. That was absolutely amazing.
Wonderful.
I was going to have myself, Brian, and Diana just give quick initial thoughts and then open it up for questions from anyone of just things to get more clarity on. Just to start off, I really loved that you took the topic of SDG2 and took it in a direction that we just don't often hear about, which is the malnutrition side. You know, there may be plenty of access to food, but it may not be nutritious food. And so I really appreciated you taking that angle on this. And when you talked about the shrinking interest in farming and shrinking farming population, it reminded me of the webinar we just had with the National Young Farmers Coalition in the US and just how they're trying in a similar way to build interest among young farmers and young people in where their food comes from and building awareness around that. I was really happy that you brought up the lessons from Indigenous cultures, because I think there's so much to learn there, combined with, with those principles and practices, but combined with a modern approach of social media. So I think you just weaved what we can learn, what's been lost in a lot of our modern day practices that Indigenous cultures do, and when they take care of the land, but with a modern approach, with an approach that I think only young people and peers can come up with. Like, you would be reaching an audience that I don't think the UN is even, they probably want to reach young people, but you kind of need someone who can come up with catchy songs and infographics and really interesting mediums, the graphics that you all created. So those are just some of my initial thoughts. Brenner, Diana?
Yeah, I can go. First of all, amazing job. I'm really impressed with how much you covered. And, I was not this informed about food and nutrition and agriculture in high school, so I'm extremely impressed by you all. Yeah, I think just to sort of, echo that sentiment of making farming attractive and approachable for young people is, I think, extremely important. You just you don't have any resources for how to get into it. It's really you know, most often just something you do if you're like kind of born into it, if your families are farmers. So I think a huge part of this is like, yeah, getting resources for young people, and opportunities, access to land to be able to start farming is huge, and not an easy task, but I'm glad that you touched on that as well. And yeah, I'm working on a similar project with FarmLink about providing nutrition resources, mainly focused on like according to like a SNAP WIC budget. So yeah, I'm super psyched that you're thinking about providing these resources. I would say when you're going with it, just make sure it's not like infantilizing, because, you know, some people may know, a lot of people know about nutrition, but might not have like the option to eat what they want to because it isn't affordable. So yeah, just making sure you're approaching it as a way that's like, here are resources and not just like, here's us teaching you about this. I think that's really key as you move forward. And I think you probably already know that and have a hold on that, but just want to put that reminder in. And also, yeah, great that you're going to reach out to organizations, you know, if possible, to translate any of those resources into Tagalog as well, or any other dialects, I think would be a huge help too in broadening your audience. Yeah, so many thoughts, but yeah, great job. I'm extremely impressed.
Bren?
Hi. Thanks. That was wonderful observations, Diana and Anna. I am so impressed. You all did such a thorough job. My goodness. And I was taking notes here too. So you all have done a lot of research and really took the time to really prepare lots of food for thought, if I could say that. But one of my concerns, I appreciate the way you focused on in trying to increase their knowledge, because I definitely think that would be helpful. You recognize that affordability could be a problem with the transportation challenges that they face, getting so much of their food from other countries because they can't grow it as much there. So of course, that's going to make it harder for the impoverished communities to be able to afford the healthier routes. So we do need to focus more on accessibility and hearing more ideas on that and how technology can play a role in that. I was impressed that you included how much access that the people had to Facebook, because my general impression was that they wouldn't have had as much access to social media. So I thought that was very interesting that you included that, especially seeing as how some of us here in the United States are having challenges with some of the students having access to the internet and so forth. So that was very concerning. I'm thinking a lot of people might think that is not a challenge for them. I mean, they don't have that wealth of access there. So that's good to know. And perhaps we could find more ways to communicate through those mediums, as I believe you mentioned, as we help educate about nutrients. But another challenge I think we have all over the world is once we get the knowledge out there, once we get them access to this healthier way of living, how do we help people to really sustain that? I mean, we have a lot of people here where sometimes we might have an abundance of healthy foods, but they still decide not to use it. So, you know, how do we make that a part of their choice and to have that discipline to do it? You know, in fact, there was a resentment in the United States when we fought for a bill and we're advocating for a policy for healthy children and hunger-free bill so that the schools would provide healthier meals. And as we know, a lot of kids are impoverished and rely heavily on some of those school meals, but still a lot of people resented the fact that this was being pushed upon them. And I believe at the time that was chaired by the First Lady, Michelle Obama, and it got a lot of pushback. And I was volunteering in the schools, and I saw a lot of waste. And I don't think it was just as a result of that. I think even before that, unfortunately, there's a lot of waste. So those are just some things to think about as we go forward. And thank you for sharing so much. Wow.
Awesome. And just, I put a comment in the chat because I know we'll have to move on to the next presentation. But I just wanted to also say I was really impressed by your network research, all the different organizations you identified on the market slide. And I'd love to keep working with you and helping with outreach and really seeing some of your ideas come to reality. So I think we'll leave it there for now. We might have time at the end to come back. But now I will turn it over to Angela and the UNA Harvard team. And if you all could introduce yourself individually and then share your presentation, that would be great.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Angela. I'm a first year at the college studying economics and environmental policy. I'm the secretary for the UNA chapter, and I'm super excited to be here. And then I'll pass it over to Shahid.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Shahid and I'm a sophomore at the college studying global health and public policy. And I'll pass it off to Desiree.
Hi everyone, my name is Desiree Rickett. I'm a first year at the college. I'm studying economics and statistics. Then I guess I'll pass it off to Angela to start our presentation.
Let me know if everyone can see this.
Looks great.
Okay, awesome. I don't know if there's lag on my end, but as long as everyone can see it, that's great. Awesome. So we can jump right into it. So hi, everyone. Again, we're representing the Harvard UNA USA chapter. And within this topic of food systems in Southeast Asia, we wanted to hone in on monocultures and environmental degradation in Indonesia. So we will first talk about the problem and then consider the role of palm oil specifically and cover possible solutions in comparison to ours. After we present our proposition, we hope to outline the benefits and the drawbacks of the proposal, as well as its relation to the UN SDGs. Now let's move on to the problem at hand. First, we did an overview analysis of Indonesia's food security, speaking with acclaimed researchers such as Elsa Ordway and Stanford professor Walter Falcon. We are incredibly grateful for their input in our research. We also wanted to reach out to locals to learn more about their lived experiences, but were unfortunately unable to do so due to time zones, communication barriers, and others. From our independent research and interviews, we learned that 8.3% of Indonesians are at risk of hunger right now. Rural poverty is also high at 13.2%. Future Directions International reports that poverty and food insecurity are closely linked. Low-income people is one of the main factors that drives households into food insecurities, especially in rural areas where there are not as many safety nets. While Indonesian poverty levels have fallen significantly, there's a lot more work to be done. There is food to go around for everyone in the world. It's just that some people are not able to pay for it, which means addressing poverty is key. This brings us to the problem of palm oil. But what exactly is palm oil? So palm oil is a fruit from tropics that has high yields and low labor costs. Some of these costs, of course, are due to forced or child labor, though. And because of its yield and costs, palm oil is inexpensive and one of the most popular vegetable oils. It's also incredibly resilient in the poor soils of rural Indonesia, where not many other produce items can grow. That means that farmers have to grow these types of crops in order to exchange them for money that can then be exchanged to put food on the table. On the chart, you can see that it's been growing extremely high over the past 2 decades. And of this growth, Indonesia and Malaysia account for around 85% of global production. These plantations created millions of well-paying jobs with tens of thousands of smallholder farmers to own their land. However, for all of its problems and benefits, palm oil also has a lot of environmental and economic harms. Palm oil often results in intentional forest fires to clear land for agriculture. For example, during June of 2013, fires in Indonesia were classified as an international health concern because they caused smog, haze, and other respiratory problems in other countries. Thus, our team wanted to find a way for local farmers to earn a better wage and ensure food security and improve their health. One option we looked at was replacing palm oil plantations with damar, a tree that allows other crops to grow in its canopies. This would increase production levels overall and prevent deforestation. This also has the benefit of producing many edible crops and lucrative resins so that farmers are able to earn more and also have immediate food on the table.
However, there are a couple of problems with this proposal. The first is that it is not resilient in poor soils and is especially vulnerable to natural disasters. This is a problem since these disasters have been wreaking havoc in Southeast Asia and will only increase in intensity and prevalence due to climate change. Thus, many farmers who once produced dammar are not interested in switching back to the crop. The other large problem is that the demand for dammar is simply not as large as that of palm oil, because palm oil is used in a variety of household items listed above, so corporations want more and more supply of it. Dammar does not have the demand to the same scale. Indonesia relies so heavily on the production of the crop that it would take decades to wean the world and the economy off of the good and onto another. This is not feasible for people who are starving today. Because of these reasons, we need to improve the supply chain of palm oil to be more sustainable rather than try to find a tenuous, imperfect substitute. Thus, I'll pass it over to Shahseed to talk about what exactly that looks like.
Thank you, Angela. So our thesis for more ethical and sustainable palm oil production is that suppliers need to take multilateral action for sustainable sourcing, consult communities that are impacted, and consider the intersectional relationships of hunger via the SDGs. We'll be looking at child labor. Children are affected in multiple ways by the palm oil sector as dependent of workers, members of the community, and at times as workers themselves. UNICEF has estimated as many as 5 million children could be affected by the palm oil sector in Indonesia. All stakeholders must be intentional and direct when working to abolish child labor in the industry, but must also advocate for maternity protections, childcare opportunities, and access to education for workers' children. Currently, it is difficult to guarantee a complete stop to child labor, even when it's banned. We suggest empowering communities at the level of the local processing mills to protect children's rights through prevention, identification, and remediation. Next, we'll be looking at women. Women make up roughly half of the workforce. Although the gender divide is one of the least visible faces of palm oil, activists and workers are continuously pointing out the existence of a gender gap. Women receive lower pay, are almost always hired as day laborers, and generally take care of maintenance tasks, causing them to suffer from more health problems due to their constant exposure to pesticides and fertilizers. Women must be brought to the conversation when discussing fair labor wages, as they are the ones who understand what a decent living wage looks like for them. We'll be also talking about land rights. A patchwork of weak laws exacerbated by poor government oversight and the failure of oil palm plantation companies to fulfill their human rights have resulted in a loss of land and livelihood opportunities for indigenous people. Since Indonesia did not formally recognize the existence of indigenous people until 2012, most of the land handed off to private companies as concessions overlap with indigenous land. In 2015, President Widodo promised a task force aimed at protecting customary land rights. The creation of such a task force is crucial for the ethical consumption of palm oil, accompanied by legislation acknowledging indigenous land rights. We need more geospatial information in order to effectively implement legislation that aims to protect indigenous and community land rights. We'll also need to tackle the greenhouse gases emissions. As we saw previously, when tropical forests are cleared to make way for plantations, carbon is released into the atmosphere. Currently, Wilmar International is working on an operational methane capture facility that can potentially reduce a palm oil mill's global greenhouse gases emission by up to 90%. We suggest more companies to prioritize funding for such research projects. We also need enhanced regulation and stricter law enforcement to protect biodiversity and limit deforestation and pollution. And now I'll be handing it over to Desiree.
Awesome. Thank you, Shahseed. So in order to most effectively craft a response to the palm oil crisis, it's imperative that we look at previous solutions that are similar to our own and learn from them to build a better response. The closest representation of the solution we are proposing is the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, also known as RSPO. RSPO is a nonprofit organization with over 3,000 members who are responsible for about half of the world's palm oil production. There are currently 16 seats on the roundtable, and 4 of which are held by NGOs. So you may be asking yourself, wow, what does RSPO do? Well, Thus far, RSPO has developed a certification standard for sustainable palm oil. This includes fair working conditions, local peoples and land rights being protected, the ceasing of the clearing of primary forestry, having wildlife protection, having greenhouse gas emissions reduced, having industrial pollution minimized, and finally having qualified independent certifiers make sure that plantations meet all of these certification standards. So these reports are available on rspo.org, and anyone can file a complaint with the roundtable against a plantation anytime for violating any of these practices. So with these certification standards, they have had 20% of palm oil production worldwide be certified to the roundtable standards. So that's about 3.2 million hectares of certified land. 190,000 hectares of forest has been conserved, and members have to go through certification every 5 years. So next, although RSPO has done a great job starting the momentum for sustainability in the palm oil industry, there's still so much work that needs to be done. In order to expand the work of RSPO and promote further sustainability goals, we brainstormed some key ideas for expansion. So of these, our very first one obviously is inspections. So through random inspections, we will check through compliance with the chosen sustainability goals. So while certifiers do come to make sure a plantation meets the sustainability standards every 5 years, we think it would be more effective to do random inspections to make sure that plantations are truly sustainable at all times. We also plan to start a campaign or social media movement aimed at promoting our sustainability solutions. We will distribute information over the problem and our solution to the general public, helping in the widespread distribution and dissemination of information over the palm oil industry about why this issue is so important to the daily lives of consumers internationally. So the social media movement will work to pressure consumers to consume less products containing palm oil while offering sustainable and practical substitutes. And we cannot stress enough the urgency and importance of this issue. By mass distribution of our message, we hope to ingrain how vital it is that action is taken today, as opposed to in the future, against the biodiversity loss, deforestation, and unfair working conditions caused by palm oil production. Finally, the last and perhaps most important aspect of consideration for the successful implementations of our ideals is collaboration. By collaborating with RSPO and similar organizations such as ISPO, we hope to combine the strengths of all of our group's ideals and passions to further advance the missions and common goals of our organizations. So you may be asking yourself, how do we know the solution is the one? Okay, well, as I say, if you like it, then you should put a ring on it. And the reason why our solution is, so to speak, the one is a couple of things. So one, reversibility. Palm oil plantations are extremely damaging for the soil and environment, as they use up a lot of the nutrients naturally found in the soil, effectively sucking the life out of them. With reduced palm oil production and giving time to forests to regenerate, we can allow soil conditions to improve and send the environment on a wild ride to the past. Two, we don't go cold turkey. And what I mean by that is that we're not proposing a plan to completely get rid of the palm oil industry. Instead, we want to work to make sure the industry is more sustainable. What we propose is much more feasible because we just want to turn the industry into a better place as opposed to completely eradicating it. And three, scale. I don't mean the weight kind of scale. The working conditions, plantation, environment, and geography can all drastically alter what a palm oil plantation in one country looks like in comparison to another. An individualized approach is going to be much more effective in this case scenario than a one-size-fits-all. And four, finally, trust, in which I mean trusting in the information and opinions we received from experts in the field. From our extensive research and questioning, we've determined that there is no greater problem or area in which we could do the most good than palm oil sustainability in Indonesia. It's important to acknowledge potential problems and weaknesses of said solution, along with the strengths. So one thing we considered is that maybe not all businesses will join, and that's kind of what our social media campaign is tackling to do. We want to create public pressure in order to make palm oil sustainability seen as a more important issue. And hopefully with that, businesses will be more inclined to use less palm oil products. A second weakness we looked at is how products that contain palm oil often reach consumer shelves after going through the hands of a variety of businesses. So it's not like you just contact one business and bada palm oil sustainability. So while we may be able to easily reach out to the overarching businesses that sell most of these products, it's oftentimes more difficult to reach out to the suppliers themselves to make sure that the materials they are using in their products are certified And that's why we're going to be targeting processing mills that are covering like localities. And then I'll pass it off to Shasid to talk about our UN development goal and our conclusion.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So all SDGs are deeply interconnected. A lack of progress on one hinders progress on the others. This is particularly evident in the palm oil industry. For instance, Indonesia's rainforests are being razed, burned, and logged to make way for plantations. Deforestation can affect the world's food supply and have a negative impact on SDG2, zero hunger. Deforestation is disproportionately impacting indigenous peoples' ability to access food, as the deforestation of indigenous peoples' forests erases resources that they have been using for generations. As mentioned before, women lose community networks that they had previously relied on, resulting in extreme hardships to accessing land to grow food and managing available resources to provide food for their families. Deforestation also destroys biodiversity, which delivers multiple services from local to global levels. And under current regulations, palm oil is directly connected to SDG 13. The most vulnerable communities being indigenous peoples, women, the elderly, children, those with disabilities, and the poor will be disproportionately impacted by the consequences of climate change. For these reasons, we believe that everyone should care about the palm oil industry. We'd like to thank you for your time and attention today. We're incredibly grateful for this opportunity and look forward to working towards a world where the global food system promotes sustainable agriculture and everyone experiences food security.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. I am really excited. I think we should all applause again if you want to unmute really quick. And 3, 2, 1. Amazing job. I love that. I just some initial thoughts. I really, really loved the connection to other human rights issues. And I think actually that's where one of the strongest components of the future of this project and the research that you've done could go is to raising awareness of how those different human rights are interconnected. There's a variety of different UN special rapporteurs from the UN Human Rights Office that focus on different issues on the right to water, the right to food, the right to housing. And they've used their influence in the past to call attention to serious issues around the world. You know, here in the US, the UN Special Rapporteur wrote a report on the lack of clean water in Flint, Michigan. And I think having that awareness building along with the consumer driven approach that you've taken with social media, those combined, I think can be a really powerful influence on this. So that's something I'm committed to doing, is to connecting you all to that person so that they can learn more about your project. Diana or Bren?
Yeah, great job. I think this is such a huge issue, and I feel like it's so easy for me personally just to try to avoid buying things with palm oil, but I'm really impressed that you're actually tackling this and trying to make it more sustainable. So I'm definitely looking forward to hopefully seeing more about solutions you might have, because yeah, I mean, I haven't really known how to tackle this. So I'm super excited that you're interested in this, and yeah, definitely looking forward more to come.
Do you think, on that note, that the audience could be global for this, or is there certain areas that are like buying more palm oil products?
I mean, the presenters might know more, but I definitely think it could be global. I think that it's used in products worldwide. I mean, especially here. So, yeah, I think if you know, you get more information out about how it is damaging, and then, you know, resources on how to reverse that, then I think there definitely would be people interested in helping and following that.
Thank you. Again, such a good insight. I'm just wanting to recommend, as you go through this, maybe considering partnering with some of the groups that do focus on some of the unfair labor practices, and seeing maybe how you all can work together on that front, because that is such a big problem in many countries, even, you know, here in ours as well. So even though they might focus on different, you know, areas, that might be something good to hone in on. And we recognize that the unfair practices and pay structures for women around the world really is a challenge for many of us. And especially through COVID, we saw so much of that break down with so many women needing to be home to take care of the children and not really getting recognized or financially rewarded for that. So so just combining maybe some of those common efforts and struggles, even though the product might be different. Or so,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think that would be a good thing to check out on the International Labor Organization, the UNILO, just to see if they have any recent reports on this issue. That could be helpful. So we only have 5 minutes left, unfortunately. So I want to turn it over to all of you, anyone from our Connecticut team, our Harvard team, just any final thoughts that you have, reflections from just this overall experience of doing all the amazing research that you did, or any questions that you have for each other. Now's a great time to share it.
Yeah, I can start us off. I really enjoyed this journey this far. I didn't really know Desiree and Shahseed too well when we first started, but I feel like I've gotten to know them so well. And I actually want to write my thesis on palm oil in Indonesia now. So I definitely will keep looking into it in the future. And then also with y'all's team, I didn't know that much about malnutrition. I sort of think that what the judges were saying was right. Like when I think of zero hunger, I'm just thinking of putting food on the table, but not what food is there. So that was a really exciting sort of conclusion that I drew from your presentation. And if y'all are in the Boston area, we would love to do a UNA USA meetup whenever that's possible.
I was gonna say, I wanted to kind of echo this sentence. I really enjoyed the Harvard team's presentation, especially because I feel things related to the environment are generally very top down, as in it's a lot of times the government putting policies and then the people not really knowing what to do with them because it's enforced from officials who don't really engage the communities that those policies are impacting. But I think your approach towards raising awareness on what is actually being done in the industry and how very normalized practices can actually be harmful and have far-reaching impact is super important. Especially because it's really hard to have people not look in the short term, right? But I think that your solution and the proposal to just engage a lot of organizations that have already done a lot of work and in implementing more sustainable practices is super important because sustainability tends to, especially I feel in the US, tends to be kind of an elitist issue sometimes, where it's people tell others to be sustainable, but then sustainability is only for rich people. But I think your approach really tries to grapple with that from all different backgrounds. I really just enjoyed this whole process of getting to not only share my team's work, which we've been working on I know for the past 2-3 months. And also hear everyone else's work, as well as the judges' really great feedback. We'll definitely be looking into a lot of the resources you shared in the chat. And yeah, thank you so much.
Well, this has just been really inspiring to me. I'm sure Diana and Bren feel the same, just to hear all your thoughts and ideas. You, as a next step, you'll be receiving written feedback from us. That'll be part of the formal evaluation for the case competition. But I'm really glad today could just be really conversational and collaborative, and we could all learn from each other and get excited about how we can really take action on this research that you all have done and the solutions that you've proposed. So either way, we plan on following up with each of your teams to find direct ways to connect your work to the UN. And on an individual level, we hope each of you continue to stay involved in the UNA USA network. We have lots of different professional development opportunities, grants for starting new chapters of UNA, future project pitches where you can get funding for some of your project ideas to work on the SDGs locally. We have our interview technologies app where you can track your service hours to the Sustainable Development Goals and receive recognition and certificate for completing a certain number of hours each year. So these are all opportunities that I can send through email and are available on our website, but I also just want to offer myself as a resource, and then let you know that you now know Diana and Bren and their amazing passion for these issues, so you can continue using them as a resource on SDG2. But also feel free to reach out to me with any general UNAUSA questions that you have. And Dustin, like I said, will be in touch with you directly and offering his help any way he can to connect with high-level UN officials. So as a next step, again, you'll be hearing from us through written feedback. And either way, we just really want to thank you so much for being part of this process, for the amazing work that you put into it. And we're excited to keep working together on what is next. A lot of great things to come. So we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.